My name is Melissa, and what I'm about to share is not just a chapter of my life, but an experience that may resonate with anyone who has ever felt trapped between love, family, and duty. It all began when my cousin Anthony introduced me to Thomas. Anthony had always been protective of me, and he said Thomas would be the kind of man who'd look after you. When I first met Thomas, I could see why Anthony thought so. Thomas was charming in that effortless way that made people lean in when he spoke. He was attentive, funny, and he seemed genuinely interested in me, not just in what I looked like, but in who I was. After a year of dating, Thomas proposed. I remember the way my heart swelled with joy that evening. Anthony clapped Thomas on the back and told me, "See, Melissa, you two really are a match made in heaven." Our wedding felt like something out of a dream, soft lights, laughter, and the warmth of family and friends. I thought I had stepped into the life I had always wanted. Shortly afterward, Thomas suggested we move in with his mother, Diana. He reasoned it would help her cope with the loneliness after losing her husband and that it would save us money. I was hesitant. I had always pictured us building a life in our own space, but his words tugged at my sense of family duty. Against my instincts, I agreed. At first, everything was fine. Diana was kind, almost motherly. I cooked with her, cleaned alongside her, and listened to stories about her late husband. She seemed grateful for the company, and I believed I was doing the right thing. But after about 7 months, Thomas came home one evening and gently suggested that I quit my job. "You know, Melissa, it would really help if you could focus on the house and on Mom," he said, his voice calm but firm. "She needs you here, and besides, with my income, we'll be fine." I loved my work as an accountant. It gave me independence, a sense of identity. Still, I let myself be persuaded. I told myself it was a sacrifice for the family, for harmony. I handed in my resignation, trying to convince myself it was temporary. In the beginning, it wasn't so bad. I learned more about Diana's family traditions, filled my days with cooking and cleaning, and tried to keep the household cheerful, but the balance soon shifted. Diana's requests multiplied. What once were gentle suggestions became sharp commands. Thomas, instead of supporting me, began to echo her criticisms. One morning, as I flipped pancakes in the kitchen, Diana appeared in the doorway. "The living room is filthy," she snapped. "I don't know what you're doing all day." "I just cleaned it yesterday," I said, trying to stay calm. Her lips pursed in disapproval. Later, she told Thomas that I was neglecting the house. That evening, when I tried to explain, Thomas just sighed in frustration. "Melissa, can't you just do a better job? It's not that hard." From that moment on, I realized I wasn't seen as a wife or even a daughter-in-law. I was a servant. The tension grew unbearable. Diana began inviting her friends over, often without warning, and expected me to prepare elaborate meals. "Melissa, I need you to serve lunch to my friends tomorrow. Everything has to be perfect," she ordered one morning, not bothering to ask if I had plans. When the guests arrived, I plastered on a smile and served them carefully, but I overheard one of them whisper loudly, "Is this your daughter-in-law, Diana? She looks so overwhelmed." Diana smirked and replied, "She still has a lot to learn about managing a household." Her words burned. When the guests left, Diana wasted no time reporting to Thomas. She was disorganized, the food was mediocre. Honestly, she needs to improve. That night, Thomas confronted me. "Why can't you just do things properly, Melissa? It's embarrassing." I tried to defend myself, my voice trembling. "Thomas, I did my best with the time I had." "Your best isn't good enough," he snapped, cutting me off. Day after day, the criticism mounted. Diana watched my every move. If I dared to take a short break, she would catch me. "No sitting until all the work is finished," she barked one afternoon when she found me reading a book. When Thomas came home, she wasted no time tattling. She was lounging around while the chores piled up. Thomas exploded, "You can't just sit around, Melissa, do your damn job." I stood there, stunned, shrinking under the weight of his anger. I felt like I had been erased. The independent woman who once balanced ledgers and deadlines was gone, replaced by a shadow bound by their expectations. 3 years into the marriage, I gave birth to our daughter, Alice. She was my light in the darkness, the only thing that kept me from breaking completely. Her tiny hands wrapped around mine gave me strength I didn't know I had. But Thomas's temper didn't ease. One night, he came home irritated over some trivial mess in the house. "Why is this place such a disaster?" he roared. I've been with Alice all day, I didn't get the chance. Excuses, you're useless, he shouted, and in a flash of rage, he shoved me hard. I stumbled and hit the floor, the breath knocked out of me. Mommy, Alice screamed, running toward me, her little voice cracked with fear. Go to your room, Thomas barked at her, but she froze, trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. That moment shattered me, not because of the shove, not even because of Thomas's anger, but because of the fear etched into my daughter's face. That night, as I tucked her into bed, she clung to me. Mommy, are you all okay? She stammered, her words broken by a sudden stutter. My heart splintered into pieces. Yes, baby, Mommy's okay, I whispered, forcing a smile, but the truth was written in her frightened eyes. The stutter didn't fade. For years, I took Alice to therapy, praying she would recover. Progress was slow, almost non-existent. Each session was a reminder of how much damage our home had caused her. The guilt gnawed at me daily. I had once given up my job to protect my family's harmony, but now I realized I had to make a different choice, to protect my daughter and myself. I promised myself things would change. After the meeting with Mr. Jerry, I made my first quiet move of defiance. I purchased a new smartphone, a small act of rebellion, but to me, it felt like a lifeline. As I held it in my hands, sleek and untouched, I thought, this is more than a phone, this is my weapon, my shield, my way out. Back in the car, I set it up with a secure passcode only I knew. I tested the recording function twice, listening carefully to the playback. Clear enough, every word, every tone, it would capture everything. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking back control of my own story. When I pulled up to Anthony's house, Alice came running out. She looked lighter, brighter, like a child again. Seeing her smiling face filled me with warmth. Ready to go home, sweetie? I asked, pulling her into a hug. Yes, Mommy, she said with a grin, clinging to me. But as we drove back to Thomas and Diana's house, my stomach twisted. I could already picture Diana's scowl and Thomas's sharp words. Still, I wasn't the same Melissa anymore. I wasn't walking back into that house powerless. I was walking in with a plan. Sure enough, Diana was waiting at the door, arms folded, her lips pinched in disapproval. Where the hell have you been, Melissa? Do you think you can just waltz in and out as you please? She snapped, her voice dripping venom. I steadied myself and answered calmly. I was at my mother's funeral, Diana, I told Thomas. Her eyes narrowed, and she gave a dismissive huff. Well, you're back now, get to work, this house won't clean itself. I slipped my new phone into my pocket and pressed record. Her every word, every sneer, every insult, it was all being saved. I felt a small surge of power knowing her cruelty was no longer hidden in these walls. When Thomas came home that evening, the storm hit. Melissa, what the hell were you thinking, leaving like that without my permission? His voice boomed across the kitchen, his eyes blazing. I forced my voice steady. I went to my mom's funeral. Thomas, I had to go. You don't do anything without my say-so, do you hear me? He roared, his fists clenching. Hand over your phone and your purse, now. I handed him my old phone. He didn't know I'd already armed myself with another. For once, his intimidation didn't pierce me the same way. Quietly, I was building my defense, brick by brick. That night, when the house finally fell silent, I pulled out my journal. I documented everything, the words, the tone, the threats. My pen moved furiously across the paper. I wasn't just venting, I was archiving evidence, preparing for war. The following days were grueling. Diana's voice became sharper, Thomas's temper shorter, but every insult and threat was captured, catalogued. Their attempts to break me only added strength to my case. One evening during dinner, Diana sneered across the table. You're nothing but a disgrace, leaving the house without Thomas's permission. I looked her in the eye and said, calm but firm, Diana, don't insult me in front of my daughter. Thomas slammed his hand on the table. How dare you raise your voice at my mother? He shoved me so hard I nearly fell, then raised his hand as though to strike. You live here on borrowed rights, Melissa, don't forget that, he shouted. I drew in a breath, a strange calm washing over me. I want a divorce, Thomas. For a second, the room froze, his face contorted, rage twisting every feature. You belong to me, you'll be my property until death. But I wasn't afraid anymore. My phone, still recording in my pocket, captured it all. His threats were no longer invisible, they were evidence. 4 days. I continued to endure. Diana spat venom in the kitchen. You're worthless. Melissa, you can't even keep a house clean. Thomas barked. You think you can leave me? You're nothing without me. Each time, I pressed record. Each time, I wrote it all down. The burden was heavy, but I reminded myself, this is temporary. This is survival until freedom. Then came the call that shifted everything. Melissa, it's Jerry, my lawyer said. Anthony hired a private investigator. He's uncovered serious information about Thomas, fraud, criminal ties. Can you meet with him today? My heart pounded. Yes, I'll go right away. At the investigator's office, I was handed a thick folder. Inside were documents, photos, proof of schemes I hadn't even known about. This folder, he said gravely, is your freedom folder. Use it wisely. My hands shook as I held it. For the first time, I saw the end of the tunnel. But as I pulled into our driveway, Thomas was waiting, his face twisted with fury. Where the hell have you been? Get inside now, he screamed. Panic surged through me, but I stayed in the car, clutching the folder. I dialed Anthony. Anthony, it's me. Thomas is furious. I have the evidence. Please call the police. Stay put, Melissa. I'll call them right now, he said firmly. Thomas yanked open my car door, grabbing my arm. You don't listen. You think you can defy me? He pulled hard, dragging me toward the house. Flashing red and blue lights cut through the night. The police screeched to a halt. Officers poured out, separating Thomas from me. I collapsed onto the asphalt, sobbing in relief. They arrested Thomas on the spot. Diana screamed at me, spitting venom, but I ignored her. Alice clung to my leg as I packed our things. This time, we walked out for good. The trial was grueling. Jerry laid out every recording, every journal entry, every document from the investigator. Each insult, each shove, each scream, it was all replayed in the courtroom. It hurt to hear, but it was the truth. The judge's words rang like music. Divorce granted, full custody awarded to Mrs. Melissa, compensation and alimony ordered, defendant to serve 6 years for fraud and abuse. Diana and Thomas lost everything, their home, their pride, their power. Alice and I moved back to my hometown, into my mother's house. The walls carried her memory, her warmth. For the first time in years, I breathed freely. Anthony helped me find work at a local women's shelter. My scars became my strength. I listened to other women's stories and offered them the one thing I knew they needed most, hope. Alice thrived, without the constant fear. Her stutter faded, she laughed more, dreamed more, blossomed. Seeing her joy was the greatest victory of all. Years later, Thomas called from prison. Melissa, his voice still harsh, I want to see my daughter. No, Thomas, I said, my voice steady, you lost that right. I hung up without hesitation. I looked outside at Alice, running free under the sun, her laughter filling the air. Peace settled over me. We had survived the storm. Now, I was teaching Alice the most important lesson of all, to know her worth, to never let anyone control her, and to always stand tall, free, loved, and strong.